would you look at the state of this engine bay, which I spent like a full day cleaning not that long ago. It was so clean you could eat your dinner off it, and now it looks like an explosion in a custard factory. It is not pretty. Considering how many miles I do in cars in general, and particularly in older cars, I've been pretty lucky lately in not having anything fail on me at all. And normally you drive a car a bit, it gives you warning something's going to go wrong, but nothing spectacular has failed in a long time. So it was a bit of a surprise when I pulled over in a big cloud of steam in this car the other day. So the Volvo has finally let me down. So I've done quite a few hundred miles in it now, and it's not giving me any trouble at all until this. And here's what happened. Well, I've taken the Volvo out to go and film a feature today, and I've just pulled up and seen a whole load of smoke out the bonnet. I thought the head gasket had gone, but it looks like just this little Jubilee clip has failed. Well, it has just coated the entire engine in a lot of scunge.
Well, I've got nothing on that.
No, I'm alright, thanks. It's blown the pipe off, so. Oh, that's nice, someone stopped to help. The temperature gauge wasn't going up at all, but as I pulled up I noticed there was a load of steam coming out from the bonnet, which is never a good thing. I thought I'd done a head gasket looking at the state of it, but in fact it's this Jubilee clip. Well, roadside repair, engine is now cooled down, topping up with just plain water for the time being. I know that's wrong, but we're beside the road and we've got another antifreeze, so we'll sort this out soon. New Jubilee clip, because apparently that's all that broke. The old one was rusty as anything. Moment of truth. Doesn't sound happy. You. There's a relief. Put the window down before I shut the door because this car locks itself. Well. Fuel water level looks alright. Oh no, it's gone. What's gone? It's a bit of water. Yeah, drunk it into the system. Well, topped up the oil, we topped up the water. See if I can make it home. Fingers crossed. So basically I was driving down the motorway, which is fine, pulled up onto a fast day road, which was fine, pulled up outside someone's house, and then it was manoeuvring slowly into a parking bay, and that's when there was no airflow, so the thermostat opened, water hit, pressure hit here, and the old Jubilee clip thingy just went psh, and so water and coolant just went everywhere. And look at the state of this thing, it is horrendous. So today's job, we can change all 4 of these Jubilee clips because the other ones look pretty manky. And I got really lucky, the guy whose house I was outside had one that he was able to switch out for me. But yeah, now I will say, people did comment immediately, I hope you're going to change the hoses as well. I did look at the price of hoses, and I looked at these hoses and they look kind of okay. They're only £9 each, but then you add VAT and postage and suddenly it's 30 quid to change 2 hoses. I've just spent a bunch more money on the Black Rover, I spent a bunch more money on the Rover convertible, and I basically didn't work for 2 months. So these hoses are going to have to stay on the car for the time being. But we're going to put fresh coolant in because now it's running on pure water. Now, at the time I did check that there was no coolant mixing with the oil, and the oil looked kind of okay. It was a little bit down, so I topped it up at the roadside, but it is still oil coloured and not head gasket failure coloured. So that is something of a relief. Oh, that's very tight. There we go. Unfortunately, my ratchet spanners don't go down as far as 7mm, which is a shame because that would be ideal for this right now. Well, luckily the top one's a bit easier to get to, but I don't want to get the bottom one off first because I don't want to be dumping a load of coolant over the alternator if I can avoid it. So here's that top clamp just there. It is a bit crusty, it's starting to corrode a bit inside. The hose itself is actually really still quite flexible. You could change every rubber thing in the car just for the sake of it, but I'll be honest, these don't feel like they particularly need it. I feel like I might be just wasting 30 quid. I don't want to leave them until they are actually bursting on the road, but at the same time I don't want to be throwing £30 at the car that doesn't necessarily need it. I can't really get my hand in it to get much leverage on this thing, but it is loose and it is leaking. Oh! I'm glad I bothered to use a catch can. That didn't go literally everywhere and all over me as well. Right, so that is now hopefully empty. I can get this old, really annoying, that thread was completely knackered on that, so I couldn't undo that one. It was really hard to do. Okay, so that's not ideal, but it'll do for now. Because slightly unusually, these were the weak points. I mean, normally it would be the rubber thing that goes rather than the hose clamps. Looking at this one here, this has got a Volvo made in, what does it say? Made in Czech Republic, actually. This looks like a brand new or fairly new hose just here, so I wonder if these hose clamps have been changed at some point in the past, but these just haven't survived. And this is actually sheared. I've never seen a hose clamp shear like that before. Interesting. But a new box of hose clamps was not expensive at all. I should have gone for some stainless ones really, shouldn't I? So we can get this on without quite so much of a fight. Yes, significantly easier. Have these got a, yes they have, a ratchet thing. Let's turn the ratchet the right way around. When I do the next big service, I'll change these hoses out at the same time. I've been thinking about changing this coolant anyway, to be honest, because I didn't know how old it was. And lots of service has happened on this car. It's not like I'm picking up a neglected car that needs things doing straight away. In most cases, it was on top of it. For example, I had a new timing belt done about 1,000 miles and a year or so ago. I think I might have gone a size too big with these clamps, but I'll just make sure I hold it in a position where it's not going to interfere with those belts, and also where I can get the socket onto it easily for the future. Oh, now I see why this was at a funny angle. It's because there's kind of a bracket that comes off the side of the chassis rail. You can't push the screwy bit past it, which is why it was at a funny angle before. Suddenly it all makes sense. And I'm going to have to fit it on there before I put the hose through. That's interesting as well. So I put the hose clamp around the neck. There we go. And then push the hose between the neck of the radiator and the clamp itself. So everything else is so well organised on this car. I'm surprised, considering how much space there is in here, this one thing is so tight. So I have to go back in with a 7mm spanner. Right, so there we have two new, not rusty clamps on there. I'll just pop this pipe that goes to the expansion tank back on here. Tighten that one up, then we'll go and do the last one. That one's already done, so that one's safe. Oops. There's a little chip out of the radiator there, I didn't notice that before. Well, I obviously haven't taken it off before. This one's quite rusty on the inside as well, surprisingly. Now, normally I would flush the radiator system out before putting fresh coolant in, but this has actually had quite a good flushing already. It's flushed itself all over the engine bay and been replaced with mostly fresh water anyway, so it's had a good old flush out all on its own. Now this car takes 8.5 litres of the blue-green type of coolant, so I'm going to dump about 4 litres of this into here and top the rest off with clean water. It's going down slowly. Let's fire it up and circulate this around a bit. Looking for leaks and looking for the coolant to drop down a wee bit. It's over the max level at the moment. The heater is on. This is a lovely smooth engine. I love that woof sound. While that warms up, I'll give the bulkhead a quick clean up. I still have a bit of a lift off left over from when we did the original clean, so I can give a bit of spray around the back. Get that bit cleaner again. I will have to let it cool down to do with other areas where there's rotating stuff and stuff. I don't want to put cold water onto hot things. Oh, has this gone down now? This has gone down now, as I hoped it would. Well, it's been several minutes now, and I've topped up a couple of times with antifreeze and plain water, and now it seems to have settled on a nice level just below max, and it's still running without moving anymore, so I think that's probably okay. Next time I use it, I will double check it before I drive off anywhere, and after I've driven it, of course. Just quickly check. Temperature gauge is still sitting in the middle. The heater is on full, and wow, it is toasty in here. I actually, I was instructed I had to go and do a 1-star canoe course this morning so I could go on family canoe days out, and I knew it to be cold, so I took this car because it's got an amazing heater in it, and I put the heated seat on, and by the time I left the car park I actually had to turn the heated seat off again because it was too hot. So right, now then, let's turn this thing off. It's done its job. Pull the key out because it does lock itself. Now, while this cools down enough to give a bit more of a clean to the engine parts, which are still covered in old coolant, let's nip around the back. My plan has always been to replace these lamps because they are horribly faded and quite cracked, but there's no sign of the breakers yards reopening anytime soon, so I'm going to get the polisher out of there and some plastic polish and see if I can do anything to recover these quickly. Right, so this stuff is called Plastex. It's a Maguire's product which I've had in the cupboard for many years and have used quite successfully a few times as well. So we'll see how we get on with these old things. I don't know if they're going to do great business today or just make a mess of it. I've actually never used it on a DA before. I've only ever used it by hand, so this will probably be an improvement. Let's face it, we can't make it any worse, can we? I say we, you're doing very little. I suppose it's a bit better versus that one. It's a bit more shine, that's a little better. Well, it's better. It's not perfect, and it certainly doesn't replace the need to actually replace them because they are not beautiful little crystal gems in the back of this car. They are still faded and quite cracked and crazed, but it looks a bit more presentable. Well, I think that's as good as I'm going to get, which actually looks quite a bit better, to be fair. It's not brilliant, but it's a fair bit better. Certainly a lot better than this one, which is as flat as a pancake, as they say. Well, the reflector's come up nice, and that's got a bit more of a shine to it. Almost a smooth surface on this tail light. The indicator's not nearly as terrible as it was, but I think it's probably about as good as we're going to get from these pretty terrible old things. Well, it looks vaguely more presentable now, at least. The car will look less abandoned if I park it in a car park. This has cooled down a fair bit now, so I can get with some engine bright and lift off and try and clean this gunk off the engine and the Ugh, firewall, everything else. This is the Dumb and Bright engine bright, and also the Dumb and Bright lift off, which is what I used to clean the engine bay the first time round. Any consolation, at least it looked very, very shiny indeed now. I hope everything starts okay after this, because last time it didn't want to start straight away. It was a broken XT lead, but you know, even so. Actually, it's quite good to wash the engine when it's still a little bit warm, because at least it steams a lot of the water off the electrical parts straight away. Right, let's just check Mobi files up again, then I can go and edit this video and show it to you. Well, that's not too bad really, is it? Considering it's a 145,000 mile, 32-year-old car. The only problem I've had with it is one rusty hose clamp. That's really not a major issue, so, you know, it's a bit of maintenance, it's sorted out, it's ready to drive a lot more now. Before I take it on any massive journeys, like take it out of the country for example, I will change these hose pipes, and I'll probably do the cam belt as well. And it doesn't need it, but it'd be nice to have peace of mind. Oh well, I hope you've enjoyed this little adventure with my reliable again Volvo. Join me again next time when one of the other cars or a test drive or something, I don't know what, I don't plan this stuff. Right, I'll see you again very soon. Oh, like and subscribe and share on, you know what to do. Just, you know, do stuff. And buy a T-Shop t-shirt. See you later.